House jaw?
Mice are pretty easy, so you don't really have to dislocate. The gerbils and the larger rodents.
Yeah.
Mice, they usually you slurp them down like oysters.
Guys, welcome to the American Sci-Fi Classics Track. I'm gonna say right now, this is the best thing you could be doing right now on the planet. I understand that
that's not a stretch.
that is indeed correct. Let's bring in Denise. Let's see. Denise, how are you?
Hi. Hi, Denise.
Oh,
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Hello.
so we are here to we're going to talk about the movies, the series,
The drink?
the whole shebang.
Dang.
Well, yes.
Now we're talking.
Yeah.
Attention.
Well, I've seen in the stores for your V8 for some reason. They tried 7 formulas before they settled on one they liked.
It is red, so that works.
Yes, yeah.
Oh
See,
man.
Pete and Vodka got it right the first time.
Right.
Yeah, it's a Bloody Mary in a bottle. Just add your own.
Nice.
All right.
Oh, yeah, there you go.
Look, why anybody is putting alcohol in tomato juice? What's wrong with you people? Why?
Well, that's exactly.
To make the tomato juice palatable.
Yeah, no, nothing is tomato juice palatable. Nothing.
So here's what we're doing. We, ladies and gentlemen, we are live on the American Sci-Fi Classics Track like we do every Thursday night at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, if you're in the correct time zone like me and Denise. Thank you. The only time zone matters.
And you're like 30 minutes away from me too, which is awesome.
I had no idea.
Neither
That
did I.
But anywho, here's what we gathered together a bunch of our favorite geeks tonight to talk about one of our favorite shows. I understand in the real world right now, as we're taping this, Supernatural is doing its final episode, and a lot of people are sad about that. But the show that we're talking about tonight did its final episode like 29 years ago, and we're okay. We just want to tell you on the other side.
Speak for yourself. Speak for yourself, Joe.
In about 29 years, we're going to be fine.
I mean, I'm okay.
We manage.
I was just fine with the best
We can always go back and rewatch them.
Yes, exactly. So now let's introduce all of our cast of characters, and then we'll let's see. Some of you have been on our virtual panels before. Some of you have not. Like my first guest, one internet to the left of me. I'm sure that's. I did it right that time. One internet to the left of me, the Irredeemable Shag. How are you, sir?
I'm doing fantastic. Thank you so much for having me. I'm very excited to do this. I'm a longtime attender of Dragon Con. I took a few years off. I was supposed to be back this year. Didn't quite work out. I showed up. You guys didn't. And so, so I'm very glad to be here talking about this. I don't know if I'm supposed to pimp my stuff here, but I will real quick.
Yes.
I'm from the Fire and Water Podcast Network. It's a podcast network dedicated to mostly comic books. We also do a lot of other pop culture things like that. We do a lot of DC comics, mainly the old school stuff. So about the time V was on TV. So I'm all over there. So Fire and Water Podcast Network.
Nice.
And of course, in our show notes after the show is once it's posted, we will have links to everybody's everything. So in perpetuity, you can come back here and find the Fire and Water Podcast Network and wherever everybody else is. And 2 internets away from me, my unindicted co-conspirator, Mr. Gary Mitchell.
Hi, everybody. Yep. There, down there.
They figured it out for the first time.
Yes. My name is Gary Mitchell. I am the Yang to Joe's Yang.
There's 2 Yangs.
I said Yang. Yang, Joe. Yang. Not the other one that starts with a W.
Both ways.
Yes.
Hang on. Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. And if you're here, I mean, if it's your first time, you don't know this, but yes, this is my real name, Star Trek fans. And I'm a writer, reviewer, voice actor, blushing debutante, and ready to talk about some friends from outer space.
All right.
And 1, 2, 3 internets away from me, clockwise, I think, our friends who joined us in person the last time we physically did Dragon Con. These two awesome folks and a gaggle of their friends did a V squadron that led into the ballroom. Mark Singer and Jane Badler. And you guys, just introduce yourself, please.
Well, I'm Charles.
Yeah.
She likes to talk, so I'll let her take the last thing. And she's my wife. So.
And I'm Adina.
Yes.
And it's not just a transposition of Diana. It's really my name.
Yeah. I'm really
Okay.
Charles, though.
Yeah.
That is real.
That's so,
And,
oh my gosh. Come on. And not leastly, but 1, 2, 3, 4 internets away from me. Denise, how are you?
I'm good. It's been a long night, and I've got family coming in this weekend, so
Ooh.
Oh,
cleaning.
let's go ahead and get the fun out of the way then.
Right. So, hi everybody. I'm Denise. I'm an artist, freelance animator. By day, I'm a program manager for the Army on the civilian side, and that's the job that pays the bills. But I'm on Instagram as layman's terms, which is a play on my last name because 2 consonants should not be in a last name together. But we're French and we hate the English-speaking world, so vive la révolution.
So let's go around. Well, we'll go around to the group. And what was your first impression of V? Did you guys see it when it debuted? Did you watch the very first miniseries? Did you catch it later? What happened, Shag?
Yeah, I was there from the start. I even remember the early ads before it came out, where it was an ad where they would tell you V is coming, and it would show. At the time, we didn't know it was just a woman, but now in hindsight, it's Donovan's ex-wife. She runs in a door, slams it shut, and she peeks through the window above her, and all this light's pouring through. And it's a scene from when the invasion, when they came and took the town. But that's all they would show you. They'd show this terrified woman that says V is coming. Even as a kid, I was like, wow, what is this? I have to know. So I watched it. I was only 11, so I actually got sent to bed when they aired the first episode before the big reveal. So I thought it was just all these scary, people in red outfits running around. So the next day at school, they're all like, "They're lizards!" By the way, spoilers. Sorry. And I'm like, "They did what?" So it actually took me until they replayed it for me to even see the scene. But I stuck with it through all the series. I muddled my way through the series. I did a lot of the expanded universe. Later on, if we get a chance, I'll be happy to show you. I've got a bunch of books sitting over here and toys and stuff like that. I collected over the years, and I still love it. I guess I should wait to get into the specifics, but yeah, that's when I first got into it, and I absolutely loved it.
Yeah. Agreed. Gary.
Yeah, same here. I remember watching just the build and the hype for it as a kid. And, being a sci-fi nerd, it was a new sci-fi thing that was coming, so I had to see it. And I already liked Mark Singer from, being a child of the 80s and HBO standing for, hey, Beastmaster's on.
That's right.
I was a fan of his. And so I was psyched for it, and I loved it.
And Adina and Charles.
Shall I go first?
Yeah, well, you speak for us, but...
Well, I mean, we both had different experiences.
Yeah.
But, so V came out when I was going on 12, and I was lucky enough to grow up in a house that was very sci-fi. My dad was always into sci-fi, so anything sci-fi came on, we were watching it. And cool. I was already a fan of Mark Singer's as well, from Beastmaster, and there was a movie, If You Could See What I Hear.
Yes!
Yeah, which I found really touching even as a kid, and I was just like, cool, he's going to be in this, and I had no idea what I was in for, and it was amazing.
And same here. So if you were, 11, so I was 13 when that came out?
Yeah.
Late middle school, I don't remember.
Let's see, 83, yeah, it was before I turned 12.
But I loved, but it was on at 9 o'clock. So this This was not some kiddie thing to sell toys. This wasn't Star Wars. This was something different and deeper, which I think is what keeps us involved with V today. That original miniseries, whatever the final battle in the series became, that original, and again, it's just as relevant today as it was then. It's deep, the characterizations, what it's trying to say. I never understood why more people weren't talking about it. Battlestar Galactica, that stuff is cheese compared to V. I'm sorry. You need 3 robots to fly a machine? Those aren't very smart robots, okay?
Yeah.
That first miniseries is very relevant today still, Charles. Very relevant.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I just didn't understand why is it not remembered as, is not revered as much as these other late 70s, early 80s cheesy sci-fi stuff. I never understood that. And that was our mission to sort of embrace it and try to bring it back because we thought it was worth remembering.
And that's why we're here, because I think it is. Yeah. We're not going to be able to touch on all the cool V stuff in this hour, but we'll get to as much of it as we can. Denise.
So I think I'm the youngest one in the group here. I remember, so in 2009, when the new show premiered, I was in Africa in, we were either in Senegal or we were again in Djibouti. I don't remember. But, and this was when I was in the Navy. So I remember coming back and hearing about this show, but never really catching, V. And then by the time it was ever really going to be talked about again was when they did that campaign for the CW to save it. So I vaguely have memories of catching the show, but I was in college at the time, so I really didn't do much with it. But I did start watching the old one because I have this thing with watching old shows. And to sit there and start watching it, you get and because I was inured to Battlestar Galactica, both the old one and the new one, which the old one was great to watch through in college. It's so campy and so fun. So, I have the opposite reaction. I have this reaction of, oh, hey, Battlestar Galactica did this, but come to find out it was actually V that did this for Battlestar Galactica, or somebody picked off of somebody else. It's like watching Ancient Aliens and then knowing the X-Files show or X-Files episode they got it from. Somebody's playing off of somebody here.
Yeah, I the first miniseries kind of just blew my mind because, like Shag said, somehow there was no hint of the secret going in. We had no idea. There were no spoilers back then about what was happening. And then when the big reveal happened, like everybody in my house were like, "What just happened?" And then to jump ahead, when the first miniseries ended, I guess I was expecting everything to end happily because I was a young, innocent lad. But no, the people had taken over. It was, I mean, yes, the resistance had formed, and she spray paints the V on the side of the
poster.
But
I still remember being a kid watching that live and going, "Wait, this is where we're ending?"
Yeah,
and getting it, because I was 12.
Yeah,
we're all like, "This is it? You're leaving us here with this?"
And there was
Strikes Back, and that kind of left us on a cliffhanger, sour note.
Yeah, exactly. But we knew there was something else coming.
Yeah,
right.
But with V, there was no guarantee that we were going to get anything else. We thought, well, it might be it.
Yeah.
Now, in between, if I'm not mistaken, in between V and V the Final Battle is when the tie-in stuff started coming out.
Mm-hmm.
I read, I know there was the big, thick novelization that I read, like I've read all novelizations of everything. And then the tie-in novel started because I remember like 2 or 3 novels in, they had to backtrack and say, never mind, because the final battle counteracted what they had done in right there.
There you go.
So yeah, what happened was they actually the publication, as far as when they were published, actually coincided with the final battle because the first one, A.C. Crispin, actually had both stories. But you're right, they were writing them months before they were done, and they really got into hot water because they did conflict quite a bit with the series. Especially the first original one, which was called The Pursuit of Diana, had a completely different storytelling for what happened compared to the series. And you know what? Depending on your take, you might feel very differently about it. There are a lot to be said about The Pursuit of Diana versus the first episode. So yeah, that's when the merchandising really got. But you know, you guys mentioned toys. You know, you see in the very first V, you know, Sean's playing with the little action figures, right, and the ship. And as a kid, I was like, okay, you know, where's the Sears catalog?
Where is it?
Where is it? Now, eventually, there was an ad, and they were supposed to produce some that never got made. Might get made next year. That's what we're hearing. But yeah, so it was heartbreaking that those didn't happen.
Well, trivia is, you know, the ship he's playing with was actually the shooting miniature of the squad ship. It's the actual model.
Was it really? Oh my god!
Yeah.
He's playing with the shooting miniature. That's what stood into the toy.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And I believe Kenneth Johnson still has those figures.
The action figures.
The actual action figures in his office.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Okay, so now
they did have an advertisement, and they were trying that someone put together to try and make this into a merchandising campaign for the action figures, but it didn't happen beyond that mock-up.
Well, it was too late. The series ended. I think LJN had the license because they came up with the clothing visitor figure.
Yeah.
And there was plans for
Right
laser. Yeah, there you
There
go.
was that.
Yeah, there was that.
There was that, and there was the gun replica. The gun was cool.
And the gun replica, yeah.
Interestingly enough, it was so popular in Argentina, they kept creating more stuff. I mean, I don't know that any of it was licensed. It's all over eBay. All kinds of figures, and guns, and toys, and pinball games, all kinds of stuff.
Books and puffy stickers and
puffy stickers.
We have puffy stickers of V.
Well, those were huge.
Come on.
Were they here? Oh.
Yeah, those were huge.
Okay, I was robbed of puffy stickers.
I know. I never got puffy stickers.
Jeez,
The crazy
Lee,
thing
where
is,
the
I didn't know about any of them. Like as a kid, I didn't know about any of this merchandising. Even the little that existed, I only knew about the 12-inch figure, and that was it. I didn't know about stickers or any other toys or anything like that. I just never heard about it.
How did I miss these? How did I miss trading cards growing up? I don't understand. I had no idea. I found these years later.
Oh my
I
god.
didn't know either.
Yeah, we found them years later.
The gum, not good anymore. Fair warning.
The gum is I remember the V comic book series that came out from I believe DC did it.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the first issue I saw was like number 3, so I said, "Forget it." Why am I even bothering? It's number 3. So
I'll never catch up.
The collector mentality destroyed it. Oh no.
Yeah.
Well, you're better than me because again, I didn't know about that either.
Okay.
You didn't frequent comic shops.
I didn't go to comic book stores. Like the most I saw was like at the, we go to like Walden Books or something like that. They have that little carousel. They didn't have V there. It was all superheroes. So I didn't even hear about that till I got older. So all my impressions were solely from the miniseries that I saw in the TV show.
Yeah. Now, if I can, just on comics, this is another one I didn't know existed till just recently. Manga.
What?
Yeah, a buddy of mine actually got these for me, Derek Crabb. I didn't even know they existed. I couldn't find them anywhere.
Wow.
I mean, they're really quite fascinating. It's the original stories of the miniseries in form. Hey, I thought the mothership shut down Denise's signal. I'm glad to see that she
We had
to keep it going.
We told them the transmission was okay.
No, my internet is just being stupid, so I'm still here.
Okay. So that's what happened in between V and V the Final Battle, but it was like
which was a lying title.
Yes, but what not? But did you tell me what you guys thought about the final battle? Was it? I felt like it was a super satisfying conclusion, and had they done nothing else, I would have been relatively happy because yay, the good guys won. But then, well, the original series came along and said, hey, never mind everything that happened in the final battle.
There was money to be made,
right.
as we
That's
know.
right.
And
Exactly.
as proven time and time again, if you can't milk every single cent out of a dying property, well, I think that's enough.
The V series, I think, was the aftermath of
Yeah.
That's cold, Joe. That's cold.
I gotta lay it on the line.
Well, Brandon Tartikoff was not going to miss a dime if he could. That's for sure.
Yeah, I remember thinking that the
supernatural. Okay, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I remember thinking the final battle was pretty good, but it was also pretty weird. You know, we start getting the weird magic powers of the V girl. But it was interesting having the human hybrid and bio weapons. I mean, they just went nuts kind of with like whatever. It's like, well, we got this miniseries. We don't know if we'll get another miniseries. Let's cram everything in.
I feel like the difference between V and V the Final Battle was like the difference between Alien and Aliens.
Well, when it comes down to it, it's two different creators.
Yeah.
Kenneth Johnson was he wasn't involved in the final battle. He was only involved in the original miniseries. So they took that and someone else ran with it. Mm-hmm. So that's why they do feel so different, and that
and I haven't made it to the final battle yet. So, but it's fine.
Spoilers.
Really, if you watch
your homework.
I would say watch the series, then watch the final battle. But well, again, spoilers. Everybody from the final battle is murdered in the regular series.
But going back to the weapons and the magic that Gary was talking about, does it really surprise anybody, given what you had with Battlestar Galactica, how you had this really great science fiction show, which, I mean, I love both the new one and the old one. I'm not one of those one over the other type people, but then you get into, I want to say about 4 episodes deep, and they start getting into the supernatural stuff, and it's like, whoa, did they put that on heavy? Oh, okay, somebody's going through something in the writer's room. But given the time that the miniseries was, but that the show was on, does it really surprise you that they kind of smoosh that in there? Because I find with a lot of science fiction shows, you got a really thin line. Like, you could have put blasters in Supernatural and everybody would have been okay with it, because, I mean, why not, right?
Yeah. It's a fine line between science fiction and fantasy.
Mm-hmm.
So, and there's sci fantasy in the middle of it. Mm-hmm. It's something that my father always discussed with me about, like, what true science fiction was and what science fantasy was and what fantasy was. And they were entirely different categories. And
because the first miniseries
was 10 times better. I mean, story-wise, it took a concept that was good in its initial conception, but horribly executed. Let's be honest. That original 70s show is cheesy. It has great production value.
It's
you
fun.
Can watch it now. Yeah,
it's fun as hell, but it's not
really
it's not really a good story.
It's
like, we just had a human genocide. Let's go to the disco.
Yeah. Exactly. I know. And again, my point about your enemy is some robotic alliance that can't even pilot a ship without 2 other guys in it. I mean, that's really not. I mean, you take the threat seriously. I'm sorry. If you don't do that, then the story just falls apart.
Yeah, but it's still enjoyable. It's just it's a matter of
it's enjoyable.
It's just 2 different things.
Yeah,
it doesn't have to be one against the other.
Yeah.
That's the real issue with the 1970s Battlestar Galactica. Who names their kid Boxy?
Come on.
Exactly.
Okay, it was the 70s. People were stoned.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
It was everywhere. There was nothing. You could
Yeah, the 80s were Coke, the 70s were pot.
Yeah.
Right.
Sure.
So,
Exactly.
so we get stoned in the
Well,
70s.
and LSD.
Yeah.
we get stoned and LSD in the 70s, which explains a lot of the sequences in
Yeah.
Battlestar Galactica. But I feel like cocaine might explain Judge Dredd.
Good point. So really, though, in the 80s, though, does Crystal Pepsi explain V the Final Battle? I don't know.
Oh God, I hope not. That was terrible.
Well, I'll chime in on your original question there. So as far as the changes from V to Final Battle, I mean V and Charles and is it Adina? Is that how you say that? Right.
Yeah.
They touched on that. That the first miniseries really is drama. It's pure drama with blasters. You know, it's social commentary. It's about fascism.
Yes.
They go to the next one, and now it's melodrama. It really is. All the drama is cranked up to 11, and it's an action pick. You know, there's not as much social commentary at all. They throw the word fascism around a couple times. Not so much. It's really just a big action movie.
Yeah,
It's
dialed down for sure. You're absolutely right.
It's much more concentrating on the two
Action.
sides in battle with each other rather than the whole underlying point of V.
Yeah.
And it has everything to do with Kenneth Johnson being gone. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And then when you get to the monthly series or weekly series, and I know I'm jumping ahead a bit, but just that progression from drama to melodrama, it becomes soap opera at that point.
Yeah.
And almost cartoon. The villains become cartoon stereotypes, really. I mean, it's almost Skeletor being like, Charles over there. Not you, Charles, but the Charles in the sort of thing.
But we get Michael Ironside, so I figure that kind of evens out.
It's true. That nothing bad there.
But you still compare that to like Next Generation, the first season. People, we love to rank on the series, but I'm telling you, there's a lot of sci-fi out there that's just as cheesy, that has a larger fan base. And that's the thing that I never got, because you still had Mark Singer, you still had, Michael Ironside. There's still all these great actors in the cheesy series that built up their characters. So for me, I'm still interested in watching them go through the motions. Yes, I understand. It's Dynasty in space or whatever they called it, and we have big hair and it's the 80s. But there's still this underlying gravitas of the characters that have been developed, and the actors are pretty good. Whether it's Michael Wright, all the main characters, it kind of still holds a little bit of that for me.
Well, I think that's because they were so well established in the original miniseries and in the final battle. So you already knew them, and that's something that Kenny does very, very well. Kenneth Johnson's main thing is developing character. I last year or the year before I read his first book, and man, that book is all about character. And that's just what he does, and he does it well. So you care about these people and you know them. So even if it does shift into cheesy land, you still know them and love them.
And I think that was my biggest issue with the series was because we had gotten to know these dozen or around that amount of characters, to see them get murdered one at a time over the course of the series.
Yeah.
I mean, that's also, shock troopers, but that's how you establish the enemy is dangerous. Again, let's go back to Battlestar Galactica. You could have a silent shooting, no one gets killed. You look at Star Wars and the Stormtroopers.
Yeah, shock troopers get their target.
Visitors actually killed.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a cheap way to it really is. It's terrible.
So after the series got canceled abruptly or quickly or mercifully, if you will.
Yes, mercy.
I think the books might have continued for a little while after that.
Yep, they absolutely did. I've got another large stack. There's no point me fanning more books at you. Yep. And then there actually was a few that got written and never even published. And it was very strange. They got, I guess the license they got tired of, they're like, we're not making enough money, so they stopped. And then several years later, I think it was Tor got the license and finished publishing like another 5 books or so.
Oh, that makes sense.
Which I don't think they finished editing before they released them either.
Oh dear.
They were turned out.
Yeah. If anybody wants book recommendations, hit me up later. I'll be happy to tell you which ones are worth reading.
It's It's like, it's done. Have we edited it? It's done. Just
Yeah.
Look, we gotta get
Just do it.
out of the office.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Again, like any sci-fi series that has
fine.
tie-in
It'll be
novels, you can pick out the good ones. Look at Star Wars, look at Star Trek. You walk into a bookstore, there's 100 Star Trek novels, or Star Wars novels. You think they're all gold? Again, it's the same thing. And we put on V for a small little window. But dude, everyone else has done it 1,000 times, 1,000-fold.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
With V, I've said this before with my personal favorite show, Manimal, but
Oh my God.
We all know. Don't worry.
you all know.
It's the first I heard it.
People whose favorite shows last 8, 10, 12 years or longer, they can go, well, season 5 to 7 weren't quite as good as the first 4 seasons. With Manimal and V, we don't have to worry about that. All we had is the one. There was no season where they fell off. It was just like, well, this is all we got.
yeah, they started in midair, and
Yeah.
And it coasted.
Yeah. And that's the beauty of it. We get down to the granular level of episodes rather than seasons is what we have to do.
Right.
Yeah.
But you
Like-
talk-
at 11 minutes and 43 seconds, when he turned his head to the left, I think he was sending a political message.
Exactly.
No,
right.
the other character was over there. No. There's
No,
a deeper
or maybe
meaning
he had
here.
heartburn. I don't know.
To pick up one more issue on the books. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Denise. What?
Oh, I was just saying to riff off of Gary. Let's talk about the framing and what the director was trying to convey. Let's go Kubrick on this thing. Let's
Exactly.
figure it out.
Yeah.
We're gonna go panel scene by scene. So one of the interesting things about V with the expanded universe was where Star Wars. You mentioned the Star Wars books. You mentioned the Star Trek books. Yeah, Star Trek. It's about Kirk. We get it. Star Wars. It's about Luke. The neat thing about the V books was only a few of them were about Mike and Ham and all them. It was here's the resistance in Texas. Here's the resistance in Oregon. And so you get all original characters, all original story. And then
So anyone could die.
exactly. Yeah.
And they did. They
I'm
did.
actually really sad this didn't take off more.
Yeah.
I'm really sad it became a niche thing, but I think I really feel like that's the bane of good science fiction. I mean, we could argue that the new, for instance, the new Westworld, which I'm really enjoying, has kind of gone down toward the melodrama part of where science fiction is always headed. Because if we all remember the new Battlestar Galactica season, like, what was it, season 2, it started to become a super melodrama, and it was like, oh my God, Apollo and Starbuck, Jesus. But I feel like V, and again, I'm super new to this, but I love how it started. Like, I can already tell that this is totally my jam because I'm into the older shows, and just the way that it's set up is like, ooh, I like this. But I feel like it's got that Westworld, that Michael Crichton's Westworld, where it's a think piece, and maybe people don't appreciate for it to be a think piece. Like, to watch the old Westworld, you have to sit and you have to watch it, because there's a lot of in the movie. There's just a lot of movie. And I feel like with V, even though it's there, you still have to sit and watch it. And I don't know as though people really like to do that necessarily. And I feel like that's why Battlestar Galactica, the old one, might have taken off more, because you really didn't have to think to watch Battlestar Galactica.
Yeah.
It was pretty,
Denise,
it was fun. Hey, look, Starbuck did something funny.
You've got a really good point.
Well, and
That's a very good
to its
point.
credit, the old BSG had tremendous production value. I mean, the costumes, the sets. I mean, it looked fantabulous.
Yeah.
If they hired a couple of good writers, that show could have been 10 times better.
It
If they didn't just crank it out as some sort of Star Wars ripoff,
Yeah, that was kind of,
writing scripts in the bathroom in 10 minutes. Screw it. Let's rip off this
It's
show.
so
That's
funny
how
that
show
you say that. It's so
Yeah.
funny that you say that, Charles, because my mom, I love my mom. She goes to conventions with me, and she follows along like, yay, I'm having fun, even though her daughter is like this super nerd, and mom's like,
That's
oh.
awesome.
that's great.
But she loves Battlestar. She loves the old Battlestar Galactica. She's got trading cards. She's got all that stuff, which is, I mean, it's like super great. She will not watch Star Trek. And I finally sat down and I watched Battlestar Galactica, and I called my mom and I was like, are you serious right now? but you won't watch the old Star Trek. What?
Yeah. You have no grounds for this.
That's it. No grounds. No, you're sitting down and you're watching Kirk do Kirk things. Okay.
Yeah, yeah.
We gotta talk about Battlestar Galactica and the Disco Angels. Okay, come on. And I really feel like, because Star Trek, the biggest thing about Star Trek is, well, I have to think, and maybe not with the original series, maybe not with the original series, but definitely with TNG and Voyager and DS9 and all of that. Yeah, you had to sit and think.
Yeah, definitely with DS9.
DS9, yes.
Yeah.
The others,
but I feel like what people want is not to think, and that's why the old BSG took off, and maybe why V didn't, which is a shame, because I mean, I like V.
Well, that's the thing.
Yeah.
I think there's two different kinds of sci-fis. That there's the kind of sci-fi that does make you think, and the kind that's just fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes they overlap, and sometimes they're the same thing. But sometimes they're two entirely different kind of things. Because one thing about the original V was significant to me, at least, because we're watching this. We had no idea what we were in for. We didn't know any of this backstory of that it was based on It Can't Happen Here, and any of that stuff. But as we were watching, I'm watching this with my parents, and my dad survived the Holocaust.
Oh wow!
And he was a little kid. He was about, he was in grade school, and watching this and seeing the Abraham character, and we were like, we get it. We totally get it. And that's where it all connected with the fascism and all that kind of stuff for us. And so even at I was 12, so I already knew many stories, but that's poignant. That's deep. And it's not, and some sci-fi does need to have that depth to make it, because at least to my dad, true sci-fi is trying to make a point.
Yeah, it's like the Twilight.
And there's points where it still brings me to tears. There's certain scenes where it still brings me to tears.
Yeah.
You talk about thinking or feeling. This, again, Kenny, and again, I don't understand why this show doesn't have the fun, because it is just so deep. Yes, it gets less thinky it goes on. We all acknowledge that.
Yeah.
But that original miniseries.
Yep.
That original 4 hours or whatever it is. You put that on today.
Yeah.
You watch that with a fresh audience, and my God,
it is making a point.
I can address that directly. First of all, it ties into Denise saying that she watched it recently, and what you're saying, Adina and Charles. I have 2 children, both when they were about age 12. These are Gen Z kids. I sat them down once they were learning about the Holocaust in school. I sat them down and said, "We're going to watch this now." We didn't watch Final Battle. We didn't watch it. We only watched the original V.
Yep.
And they connected with it, just like you were saying. Now, they didn't have a life experience of knowing anyone who went through the Holocaust, but learning it in school and connecting with what they were watching, and the whole idea of, yes, it could happen here. And it really, you got to them. And they still talk. I was talking to my daughter about it right before I came in here. I was telling her what I was going to go do, and she remembers it fondly. So
fantastic.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We love to hear that. We love stories like that.
Yeah.
And that's kind of why we're out there dressing up and doing what we do, is just to keep the story alive and be out there. We're not selling anything. We're like, people come to us like, what is this? These outfits look cool. What do you and we tell them the story and how this affected us, and go watch it. There's more to
that is what
Star Wars and Disney,
That's what I wanted to get to with you two, as far as your history with cosplaying and doing all your stuff with V. Did you start cosplaying on purpose? Not on purpose. I mean, accidentally.
No, Joe, it was accidentally. They just stumbled into a V costume.
I fell into a pile. I fell into a pile of fabric one day, and
hey, this looks like lizard people.
If you had to sew her way out, like, I got to make costumes to survive.
But did you just tell me your journey into being V cosplayers, and because by the time you started cosplaying V, the show was long gone. I'm guessing.
Well,
I came from the 501st, and when I met her, she came from a ring care background, so I had a Star Wars costume background, and she had this.
I had been into. I had learned to sew from my mom, and had here and there made things, but started getting into stage combat, which meant I was in a Renaissance fair, so I had to make costumes. And then I was getting into historical costuming and, being accurate about it and, trying to recreate things from actual, paintings and things like that. So that sort of led me onto a sort of a screen accuracy kind of path. And and
of course, doing Star Wars costumes, it's all about screen accuracy.
Exactly.
So I sort of had that background. So when we got together
and found out that we both
loved V,
we both knew V, and
we were like, nobody is doing this,
and why?
And why? Why not? We both love the show. No one is doing anything about it. You've got the Ghostbusters out there. You got the Star Wars. I get the Star Trek guy. Well, again, everything is out there. There's no V out there.
So that's when we were like, let's see if we can get this to be as accurate as possible. And what can we do? And and this was just like a bunch of our friends in Connecticut.
Yeah.
And just messing around and be like, let's see how good we can make this. And can we do this? And yes, we can. And
awesome.
Yeah. We got invited to a con 10 years ago. And, because they had Sarah Douglas there. Like you guys, we sort of knew the promoter.
Yeah. No, actually, we didn't know him then.
That's true. We knew Eric.
We knew a promoter that knew him. And we found out that Mark Singer was supposed to be there, and Sarah Douglas. So we had just started getting all the our CTV thing together. So I sent an email to it was actually Rhode Island Comic Con, and I sent them an email to say, look, we've got this little group of people that are costuming V. Do you want us to help promote the show? Because Rhode Island, that was like the second year they were open.
It was like the third or fourth.
Was it third? No, whatever. It was early. It was early on in their existence, and we're like, we'll help you promote it because we've got costumed people. And they asked us. They're like, "Do you want a table?" We're like,
"Okay."
For what? We're like, "What?" I don't know.
Yeah, we like to sit down. The table might.
We'll sit here and.
I can do this.
Thank you for the table. Yeah.
And we basically set up a table with some of our props, and we were all dressed up, and people asked us about V. And
great.
I just kind of took off from there.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
That's so cool.
I will just throw out there, I did dress as a visitor for Halloween in 1984, but nowhere screen accurate, though. Nowhere screen accurate.
So was it one of those big Cooper costumes that just had a picture of like a lizard on it?
That was like my mom's red blazer and like a little symbol I drew on paper and safety pinned to my shirt and that kind of thing. It was.
I did the same thing.
You're better than me. I was probably a cat. So
with that, I want to bring up a comment we've got from Craig. Hi, Craig, who says,
"Hi, Craig."
He mentions that he would draw the symbol on his notebooks, and then worried people would think it was a swastika. And I have to admit, it wasn't until within the last 10 years I looked at the visitor symbol for the first time and went, "Oh, really? It's a swastika."
It wasn't so scary.
Yeah, super intentional.
Yeah. I was like, how did I miss that? How did I not
see
that?
Black.
Well, because it wasn't.
Many did, and it wasn't in your face. It was subtle enough.
Yeah.
But, people are still like, "Oh, if I wear this, will people think I'm a Nazi?" Well, like, no, you just say this is a symbol from a TV show. It's allegory.
Yeah, this is an allegory for anti-fascism. You're actually by wearing this, you are acknowledging a show that was anti-Nazi, anti-fascist.
Exactly. Yeah.
What show is that from? Man in the High Castle? No, wrong.
No,
that's an actual.
Yeah.
I still haven't finished that book.
Though that was an amazing show.
Oh yeah.
Apparently,
cool. That was fantastic.
It's like amazing. I just haven't. I have a list.
Oh yeah,
I think we all do. Yeah.
Finish V first. Finish V first.
We're telling everybody, finish V first.
If she's watched the first miniseries, does she really have to keep going? I mean, let's be fair.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
It's diminishing returns always.
Right.
Is what. Yeah.
Well, okay, look. I want to talk about diminishing. You want to talk about diminishing returns? I stopped watching Supernatural at season 4 because it became a
well, you got
that's a whole other panel.
I actually got farther than that, and I really enjoy the first several seasons. I can't remember which season I ended on, but I really enjoyed it, and you know, the fact that it's still going, good for them. If people are still
Right.
enjoying it, that's great.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it. I didn't think it was
We
gonna last that
about well, let's talk about the maybe we don't want to talk about it for very long, but let's talk about the new V series, the one from a few years ago. How'd that go over with you guys? With anybody?
It was a new V series? Not that I saw.
Yeah, I don't know what you're
It
talking
was some
about.
garbage masquerading, but V, it was not V. I don't know what it was.
The funny thing is, that was out the year before we met.
Yeah.
And
and it
so-
almost ruined V fandom for you.
Well,
no, actually, it didn't.
Well, it didn't help. It didn't help.
I was hopeful, but I was disappointed because it
Well,
wasn't.
you know, you're kind of hoping for a Ron Moore Battlestar Galactica, and you get what do you get? And you know, some sort of Kevin Sorbo show that just.
No, I wouldn't say that.
I don't know. But
I wouldn't go there.
It wasn't good.
But
it wasn't good.
It didn't have the heart, and it didn't have the character development. There wasn't that strength that the original V had of the power of the people rising up against the bad guys.
Yeah.
And it was sort of, it was, the new V's resistance was kind of like, yeah, maybe we should resist. I don't know.
Well, you're also looking
and
at,
you know, it didn't have that power. It didn't have that passion, I guess.
Much of anything.
So it just didn't have, maybe that's it. It just didn't have a lot of passion. The actors were great.
Or direction. It didn't have a lot of direction either. It kind of meandered.
And it was only until, and sadly, it was only until like the last like 2 episodes, you're like, okay, now we're getting somewhere. Oh, and now it's canceled.
Yeah, that's a problem with a slow burn show, especially these days.
It's not the right kind of slow burn. That's the problem.
Here's the thing about slow burn shows. Okay, Americans, and I've learned this being overseas for many varied years over the course of my life, which is a whole other panel. Americans don't really understand the concept of a really well done slow burn. The Brits do, because that's like all of their television, including their comedy. That's all of it. I mean, Faulty Towers, you know, from Jonathan and Mr. Norrell all the way to Faulty Towers, it's a slow burn and they know how to do it. But with the new V, I think you're also looking at a huge, I mean, not huge, I don't want to say huge because, you know, but you're looking at a generation gap in television production and the direction that television started going. Because when the new show came out, it was in the 2000s, and you could tell just by the way that shows were going that the whole dynamic of a show like V was going to change to kind of make it fit in more with what is popular. And here you're working with this raw, really good material, really poignant material from the 80s, which was still incredibly relevant back then, because I mean, you only had what, a 40-year gap between actual fascism and the 80s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Relatively speaking, it's not a small time jump, but in the 2000s, you're seeing like this huge uptick in not only melodrama. I'm looking at you, DC. But you're seeing. I'm just saying. Look, you're seeing this uptick in this resistance to resistance, and this too much exposition and this too much. Okay, we need to talk about things. And it's like, no, guys.
Like the original V. When the resistance formed, you're like, well, of course we resist. It's the 80s, I guess. But the new V was just bleak. It seemed like, well, there's nothing we can do. And then it turned out to be correct. But
well, I honestly get.
Yeah, they weren't inspired. They weren't like automatically like, this is wrong. We got to stop this now.
Yeah. Well, it seemed like the new one wanted to talk more about the cult of celebrity and religion, which is a whole different type of power.
Right. Yeah. It was a different focus, I guess. And maybe it just wasn't a focus that.
Well, they retooled the idea in a great way, I thought. Like they're going to solve all our problems. So they put it on its ear. But then they didn't really develop it. Like, we're going to solve all your problems. The world is shit. It's 2009. But, here we are, we're going to help you. So it's, it's kind of the same thing, but kind of a different feel, as you're saying. But then the characters just go nowhere. The idea goes nowhere, and the whole show just goes nowhere, really.
Well, and
I think one of the challenges they had was, you guys mentioned, they had great actors, and they had an interesting concept, but the writing was the fall down. But it's almost as if it was different enough that they were banking too much on the V name, that the story was so different that they could have just told the same story without calling it V, and about something along those same lines would have almost worked better. I feel like the name worked against them, because they came in the door with expectations that they didn't deliver on those expectations.
I honestly think the show might have done better if they had called it something else. And part of me really wonders if it started as something else and they went, hey, we've got the property. Why don't we? And then you get and then you get a iRobot situation.
And something like
now, did you guys after this was a couple of years ago, I'm not positive when it came out, but Kenneth Johnson wrote a book sequel to the original miniseries,
Second Generation.
And it is pretty terrific. It doesn't count, like the final battle doesn't count, because like you said, he didn't have anything to do with that. And Mike has been through hell for 40 years. And but yeah, the book series, that book, I think there was just the one.
Correct.
Really good. Diana wins. She, as she should, but very.
I might be biased.
I think so. Maybe.
Well, Kenneth Johnson still owns the film rights, not television rights, but film rights to V. And his goal, right before the pandemic, so who knows now, his goal was to produce a V movie, which would be a remake of the original V miniseries. The second one would be The Second Generation, and the third one would be another story of that, following that same story. So that was his hope. Where it all sits right now, who knows?
Last we heard, he is still trying to make that happen.
Oh, great.
He's not. Obviously, it's not going to happen anytime in the next, year, but that is his goal, to make that happen someday. And sorry, our cat's going crazy behind us.
You gotta respect, though. You gotta respect, though, a creator who is sticking with it even 40 years into it.
And he,
And you would think the storyline is so timely that somebody would jump on it, but no. Let's make another superhero movie that we've seen 100 times already. That's what the public wants. It pisses me off. Sorry, guys. I'm very opinionated.
He's very
understandable. Well, not every show can have a laser tank in it like V, so I'm very biased against any show that doesn't have a laser tank in it.
And the thing is, there's room for both of them, and that's what is the problem, is that the producers or whatever, they think that there isn't room for both of them, and they get hooked on this one thing and they make 1 million of it, and people get bored and they're like, well, what do we do now? And you could have been doing both, and I don't know.
If they could do a completely different interpretation of Godzilla every other year, then I think the general public can understand different iterations of V.
If they can make a movie from the musical Cats.
Oh, God.
Where are we?
Who would do that?
Who would do that?
I think that caused the pandemic.
They make the same Marvel movie 30 times in 10 years, with little variation. But that's what the public wants.
That goes into the whole Hollywood culture thing.
I like to joke about it, but
that's way above our pay grade. But
it's way above. Yeah, it's way above our pay grade and our salaries.
That's right.
2020 has brought me anything good. It's like there's not a fucking another Marvel movie this year. Like, sorry guys.
I hope this isn't a family show.
No, we'll have to blur him out completely.
Charles, you're getting blurred.
With the big X in the black box in front of his face.
Charles needs a conversion.
That's right.
We'll wash your mouth out with hamster soap.
Soap and vodka, please.
So that means you got rid of the white bodysuit. But anyway.
What are there V podcasts out there? Surely somebody is doing like a series rewatch show, and if not, we could do that.
I mean,
Not that I know of.
I'll do
I never thought to look.
that.
I've been threatening to do a podcast miniseries about it. I kind of have it mapped out in my head for like 4 or 5 episodes just to talk about it. Talk about like the music. Because by the way, you can get the soundtracks digitally if you don't know them. They're great. So you can talk about the soundtracks.
Right.
What's that?
Surprise! We have the soundtracks.
There you go. And so you can talk about the music and the I'm sorry, Denise. Go ahead.
No.
I didn't hear your volume. What was that?
Yeah, you can get the whole series on Apple iTunes for $40.
Yeah.
Oh wow. Okay, there you go.
No.
But there's a lot you can talk about. The merchandise. There's definitely there's things to do there. Absolutely.
Shag, here's the deal. This is my first time watching the show. So if you want to pair up, you being the expert on it and me being the new kid, we can make a podcast out of this.
I kind of like that.
We're making this happen, guys. This is awesome. Adina and Charles, obviously no one can do anything outside their basements right now. But are you guys still like how big is your group? Do you guys have just the one conclave or?
Well, so like I said before, it started out with just like a 10, maybe
10 or
8
12
to 10,
people
a
here.
couple of us in Connecticut. And one day somebody contacted us and they
We
said,
started a Facebook page.
we
and then
started a Facebook page
getting attention from other people from around the country.
until someone said, "Can I get one of those costumes?"
And everyone's like, and a lot
And
of them,
I'm like,
a lot of them 501sters. So we're getting tired of Star Wars, tired of the Legion, whatever. Like, I'm looking for something fresh and new. This looks great.
So I said,
Will you guys, can I be part of this?
and we said, I guess, why not? So I made a costume for one person, and that became 2, 3, 20. And suddenly we had international people, and we were like, we can't just call this the CTV. It's not just about Connecticut anymore.
Hey guys, I gotta cut out. I've got people coming in, so I'm
sure
to do this. But y'all have a great night and happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate it.
Happy
Happy Thanksgiving to you too.
Bye everybody.
Yeah.
Bye.
But what I was going to ask you though is, I did want to say thank you again for being in live action with us a year ago at DragonCon.
That was so much fun, and thank you so much for asking us to do that because it was a blast.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was me or Gary that had the idea first. We knew that there was like one guy who came to our DragonCon panels in a V outfit, and I think he would alternate between V and Captain Kangaroo.
Yeah. Sure, I see that.
Either way, he's wearing red.
Either way, he's wearing red.
Well, I don't remember the guy's name, but I know who you're talking about.
Oh
Yeah.
and I thought, well, then once we got the word that we got Mark Singer and Jane Badler, I thought we got to find somebody. But the I think everything that we planned that you guys did worked out great. If you're watching this and you were there, awesome. But if not, when Badler and Singer and Robert Englund, who was also there, when they came out for our V panels, these guys, one internet below me, in full V regalia, escorted them to the stage and stood guard with their shock trooper weapons. It was wonderful.
That's awesome. That is so cool.
It was so much fun to do, and we had only met Robert once before, and
well, twice, but
actually twice. Yeah. I guess it was twice before. And Mark, we had missed that first con that we did that I was mentioning. He actually had to cancel, so we finally met him in 2016. Was it?
At
Foxwoods. So this was the second time we got to see him, and Jane, this was the first time.
Wow. Live, so it was the second time.
But we didn't really talk to her there.
No, we did, but a little. A little. But we had met her before quickly.
Yeah.
We were friends with her sister.
That's true.
Oh.
So it was so in a way it was a little bit of a reunion for us. and and it was just cool to be asked to do it, and that it went.
Yeah, and to rally the troops. We were asked to, Joe asked us to go to Dragon Con.
We had a friend come.
There was like, yes.
We had a friend come from Canada.
To come,
Oh wow.
We had never met our group to come down to be part of this.
That we only knew online and had become friends with online, and she's like, "I'll come down from Toronto." We're like, we're like, "Come on down."
Yeah,
awesome. But I'd never met any of the people from the show before, and I got to watch Mark Singer expound on the art of acting.
Yes.
Like an hour.
Amazing.
and because I had to, I put him on a Beastmaster panel. It was just him talking about Beastmaster for an hour, which was great. And because Robert Englund, I don't know if you guys knew this, he did one other thing besides V.
Yeah, it's a little thing.
Yeah.
No one knows him. No one
Doesn't
knows
ring any
him.
bells.
But he did the weekend at DragonCon. We got him for one thing. And that was great to get him up there to just talk about V, because he loves talking about V and no one ever asks him about it.
Yes. So I'll tell a little short. I'll try to make it a short story.
Yeah.
So this one of the Foxwoods Comic-Cons, Robert Englund was going to be there, and our friend was the promoter there. So he set it up. So Robert was in the corner, and our booth was like right in front of him. And we had the laser Jeep. We had, did we have the bike? But I don't think we had we just had we had Greta Blackburn, who played Lorraine. So Lorraine, we invited Greta to hang out with us. She's become a good friend of ours, and she was Lorraine in the final battle. So we see Robert over there. We're like, I wonder when he'll be able to come over, because we know he's probably really busy, but we know he likes me. And we kept having people come over that had just seen him and got his autograph. They're like, Robert's like really excited about coming over here. He says he wants to go climb all over that Jeep. And people like one after another telling you, we're like, well, tell him to come on over. And he left for a panel. We're like, I don't think we're going to see him today. And all of a sudden he was there.
Yeah, he just walks out the side door
out of nowhere.
He's like, hey guys.
And he's like,
out of your dreams. Like, did you guys fall asleep? Is that what?
And he's like,
and he did that like 3 times for the weekend.
Oh my gosh.
This was the first time.
He came over, he goes, hi, can I get on this thing?
Yeah.
He goes, can I use the gun? We're like, get on up there. And I have a selfie that I took because I was in the driver's seat, and I'm just like, oh my God, is this really happening? And he was just like, and like started and just got down and told our entire group. He just started being like Robert Englund's story time.
Yeah. We gave him his little mug. He gave us hugs, and he just sat and he talked to us for about 20 minutes.
Yeah, just telling us stories.
And appreciating that we were keeping V alive and doing something that he loved, that he still loves and to be part of. So it meant a lot to him, and that again, that touches us back too, which is kind of nice.
And I think what we found with all the actors that we've met from the show, it does mean something to them still. From
to have been part of that.
From Jane to Mark to Robert to Michael Wright to Sarah Douglas to Frank Ashmore, to Richard Hurd. It meant a lot to him too.
Yeah. And we also became very good friends with Richard.
Yeah.
You guys don't know that either. Richard Hurd became one of our. He became like an uncle or a father to us.
Oh wow!
He would call us. This is your supreme commander. He would say. Very.
Well, I swear every time.
I think it comes from the fact that is the first miniseries especially is good sci-fi and is important.
Yeah.
Yes.
And I would personally be very proud to be involved in anything like that. I mean, no matter where it ended up with the TV series and everything.
Yeah, absolutely.
That first series, I think it's a shame that more people don't watch it and don't see it and just kind of think of it as an 80s thing. It's like, no.
It's really,
it's more than that. Yeah.
Or they look at the effects and go, oh, it's like, but it's
Yeah.
not about the effects, it's about the
Right.
I
characters.
love, well, clearly I love this because you can see the poster, and this is all that we do at DragonCon. But I love digging back into these things that existed when I was a Ute, and I love doing that, and I'm so glad that I've got you guys, and we've got a community, I think, of just a whole bunch of people who just love jumping back into the archives of awesome stuff like this. But let's do like final thoughts, Shag, about V.
Just I do feel a little sad about the diminishing returns, but I stand by the statement that first miniseries is as powerful today as it was then. The message resonates with even kids, like I said, my own kids. And if you haven't watched it in a long time, go back and watch it and bring a box of Kleenex, because you're right. All the scenes with Abraham, you're gonna cry. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Gary?
Same thing. And it's just like, it's got great characters, it's got great moments, and it really does what good science fiction should do, like what the Twilight Zone did, where it takes a real world problem, puts the sci-fi skin over it, and lets us examine it from a new angle. And it, and then it tears that skin off to have a lizard face underneath.
Exactly.
But yeah,
allegory intended.
Yes. But yeah, and so I'm glad that you guys are doing the costuming, and that part of the reason we're doing this episode, and we always talk about it, is I think it's a show that deserves recognition and to be remembered.
Yeah, and that's, if I jump in here, that's exactly why we do what we do. That's why we're out there. That's why we dress up. That's why we go to cons. We're not out there selling prints. We're out there to promote this 40-year-old show, because it's worth laying eyes on for the younger generation, or people who don't know, or they come up to us and go, you guys look awesome. What is this from? These are 20-year-olds or 21-year-olds, and they don't know. Yeah. And we have this great show, and I'm going to go check it out. Exactly. Yeah. That's why we're out there. That's, we're doing the good work, as we like to say, because again, I think it's underrepresented in the community, and that's a shame. Yeah, I don't understand it, and we're trying to do our part to keep it alive and out there.
Yeah. Although at the same time, over the past 10 years that almost 10 years that we've been doing this, we have found so many more fans of the show that we ever imagined existed, in places in the world that we never knew existed. I mean, yes, Argentina, but Malaysia and Australia, and
you're building a real world resistance.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Germany,
or the
Spain.
visitors. We're not the resistance.
Yeah.
True.
No, but
True.
It blows my mind how worldwide this has been known, and I had no idea that so many people, even outside of America, much less in such quantity, were fans and were touched by this, and it still means something to them to this day. And that they wanted to be a part of our group because we were keeping it alive.
Yeah. Well, let's go around and everybody plug your stuff and tell us where you can be found on the interwebs. Shag.
Find me over at the Fire and Water Podcast Network, where I'm talking about, again, mostly comic books, things, and some pop culture things. So fireandwaterpodcast.com.
Gary.
You can find me here. You're already here, so you found me.
Yeah, we're here.
You can find me on the Twitters right there. And I look forward to seeing you all next week.
And you can find us on primarily on Facebook at facebook.com/CTvisitors. And you can also find us on visitorfleet.com.
Very cool. Very cool. Thank you guys very, very much for coming and hanging out with us. And
thank you guys for having us.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you very much for letting us come. This was a
Yeah,
blast.
heck yeah, because basically I think we all realize that the real world is stupid. We don't have time for any of that stuff.
We were just saying, the real world is stupid.
Yes.
So
we need sci-fi.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's what we're here for. But thank you guys very, very much. We will see you very soon.
Please, yeah.
I
anytime
certainly
you
hope
want,
so.
We are available. Thank you guys so much.
Bye. Good to meet you guys.
Everybody.
Good to see you again, Joe.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys.